Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 68 of the EE PowerTalk.
Episode 68 of the EE PowerTalk. My name is Daddy Blessing.
My name is Elvis. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can, we really appreciate. You can share, you can like, you can comment.
Yeah.
This is episode 68.
68, yeah.
Yeah, we've done 68 episodes, and thank you for each and every person who's been tuning in and getting to watch and learn from the conversations that we've been having.
Actually, yeah, and it's a good thing to actually have a community that is active. And we said if you're getting something helpful from the channel, it's also good to share to the next person.
Sure.
And also for them to have something that they can, listen and take note of. Because if you have learned, why not share?
Why not share with someone else? Today we're talking about trauma.
Yeah.
I think, as I was telling you earlier, majority of Gen Zs today are actually traumatized.
Yeah.
And I was telling you that the biggest cause of trauma today is not anyone else but family.
Correct.
Families are probably the reason as to why most young people nowadays have traumatic experiences from parents.
Yes.
Especially parenting, especially. Iyo sana sana.
Yeah.
Number 2, siblings. Number 3, extended families. Or probably people that you're related with, not by blood really, but just by association of marriage.
Yes.
Like, for example, you have an uncle who's this and this and this.
Yeah.
And I tend to believe that most of these traumatic experiences still tend to live on with someone because they were never resolved.
Yeah.
And that is why you find that so many young people nowadays, either they get to engage in activities that help them numb the pain they actually get to have. Like an example would be alcoholism. Some of them actually engage in like erotic behavior.
Yeah.
Some of them are doing pornography on social media.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone who is sane enough is going to wake up and start doing pornography just on social media. I honestly also don't think someone is just going to sit down and start taking alcohol if they are not trying to numb something that is affecting them.
Correct.
And I think it takes a lot of self-control. It takes a lot of self-reflection to understand that this was a traumatic experience that that happened to be in my life, and it's time for me to get to solve it.
Yeah. There are a lot of things that you see adults doing, and once you take time to investigate, you will find that it stems from their early childhood. Maybe something was done to them, and it not necessarily even by something being done to them. Trauma can also result from something not being done.
Yeah, like proper. You didn't get proper parenting.
You didn't get proper parenting.
Neglection.
You were left. So when you see something or experience someone who has undergone proper parenting, both parents were there, they were caring, they were loving, it kind of it's a reflex. You see it awkward. You don't relate with that. You feel like, oh, these parents are all over your space. Why?
Good parenting is toxic to someone with trauma.
Yes, good parenting is toxic to someone with trauma. Very true. Because they don't understand. They can't relate. What is that feeling that you want to tell me that actually my father can not only pay for my school fees and my well-being, he can tell me I love you. Like, we've come to a universal agreement that especially many men, we grow and die before you ever hear your father telling you I love you. So when you come across someone who is telling you or who is being told by their father that I love you, you'll be kind of,
excuse me,
ai bro, ni vitu gani mnafanyaga na babako beyond nini?
Anakuambia aje kwani ni mpenzi wako?
Yes. Now come to another person, maybe a lady who experienced maybe a sexual assault from maybe their father, their uncle or something. They become a friend with a lady who has a healthy relationship with their uncle, their father. If that lady sees you hugging your father, it raises the alarm. It raises, you're like, okay. And they tend to, not from their, it's not normal, but as a defense mechanism, they'll kind of even try to advise you now. That's why this labeling of things like you're not safe around men. It doesn't matter if it is your father. It doesn't matter. It is, and that narrative has been going on online for quite a while. And when you take a keen study on that person who is talking like that, they had a bad experience. Maybe they were raped by someone they trusted. Maybe a father, a brother, a cousin, an uncle. So when they meet someone who has a healthy relationship, they don't understand that because they have labeled now. Anywhere you come close a man, it doesn't matter whether it is your boyfriend or your friends from wherever, your grandfather. At the end of it all, they'll try to take advantage of you sexually. And most of the time, because it's not a huge percentage, it will scream so loudly even to the people who are having healthy relationships with the people in their family of the opposite gender.
I'll take you back, Kidogo. Have you seen this guy who's been dancing with the father on TikTok?
Yeah.
What a nice relationship to have with your father.
Yeah. And I'm like,
video,
yeah.
Like I've seen that with other parents, Pia. Like you find that there are parents who don't find their children as a burden. I brought you into this world and you're not a burden to me. Have you ever heard, like, there was one time I listened to my father saying something which was I found very fascinating. And I was like, mzae, even if unaambianga mtu unampenda.
Yeah.
Like my dad sat down and told me that even if you are a thief today and you are arrested, believe me, you are not a thief to me. To me and your mother, son. You're my son. And I don't care what people say, you are not a thief. Do you know what I came to realize? I'm telling you, one of the worst things that you can have in this world is not have loving parents. Do you know, like wewe, especially for men, who is the closest person who loves you unconditionally?
I would say my mother.
Every time is a mother.
Yes.
So assuming that mother of yours has caused you some traumatic experiences.
You
get me? So now you can imagine the number of young people who are being affected by traumatic experience because you were raised by a father and a mother who, first of all, didn't understand, first of all, emotional intelligence. Walikuwa nakeleleshana tu hivyo tu hata mbele yenu. Like some of them, like honestly, one of the things I've actually gotten to learn from trauma itself is that it doesn't manifest when you're as a child. It comes up when you actually get to be an adult. Do you realize that as an adult, that's when you mostly need your parents?
Yeah.
As a child, you used to find them bothering. But there are people nowadays who crave for that relationship with their parents. They just want to say, hi, mom. Uko poa? Hi, dad.
I think from even how you are brought up, whether or not your parents were there for you emotionally, it's a huge determinant of how you even receive love.
True.
Because if you are not shown that you can be loved unconditionally, you are always shown that for you to be loved and accepted in the family, there must be something extra that you're doing for you to earn that love. When someone comes and loves you unconditionally, you'll be like, hold on, sir. Unataka nini kutoka kwangu?
Hizo vitu sifanyangi.
Not that, like, tell me what is expected from my end.
You want to take advantage of me?
Because it is not expected for someone or anyone to love me unconditionally. My mother did not love me unconditionally. I have to fight for her love. So wewe stranger, wewe unataka kuniambia you are loving me unconditionally. Nini unataka, bro? Ama nini unataka sisi?
What is your objective?
Yeah, what is your objective? So it not helps, but it provides a wall that is very hard to break through. It requires you to go and unlearn things and actually explore. Most of the things when it comes to trauma, it doesn't really actually even need therapy. Just exposure. And know that in some other settings or some other settings in this world, such kind of love exists where you don't have to do anything. You're just loved because you're present in people's lives. You're a son to someone. You're a boyfriend to someone. You are a brother to someone. There is love. There are people who did not experience that in any level.
Hey, Mazi.
So when they find someone out of nowhere is doing things for them, just for the sake of doing it, they rebel that.
And honestly, by the way, I think even as an adult, you realize that as you grow up and become an adult, that is when you crave for more love. And that's how we get into toxic relationships.
Yeah.
Because you're looking for that you never got.
Yes.
I normally have this equation where I was raised by strict parents, but not very strict.
Yeah.
My parents were not like wale watu wa nini, not very strict, but they were, for me, I would say it's discipline and order. Because there's a difference between caning your child like you're almost killing them and correcting them and telling them this is not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And at one point, I remember when I got to 16, my mother was like, listen, my son, I'm not here to follow you in everything you do in your life. So you choose the path that you want to live.
Correct.
You know how hard those words when your parents do like this, they say, tumeosha mkono. I'm telling you, that's when you realize, hey, wacha niamke. And the reason I also think a lot of us have also had some traumatic experiences is, first of all, negligence.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to parenting. Your parents don't give a crap about you. They will go and do all these things. They don't care about you generally. And you realize that if the people, your parents are your second gods.
Yeah.
The people who are supposed to love you unconditionally.
They're putting conditions for you to love you.
They're like, you look at them and they probably don't even. There are people who, like, for example, you can even go for like 3 weeks and your parents don't care about where you are. Like, they don't even bother about you. Like, there was this guy, I remember when I was in Campo. Every day this guy used to be called by the father. Every day. Like, hello, my son. Every day. And then, like, the dad used to come to school. So he used to be like, what kind of relationship is this? And then come to realize, you find that the guy was never raised with a mother. The guy was never raised with a mother. So the father chose not to marry again, to raise only the child and the sister.
Yeah.
The son and the sister. And you look at the love this guy has for, you see a guy who even has the guts to come and hug the father. You can tell me what kind of love this guy has experienced.
Unconditional.
Man, like, you realize that most of us struggle. We have traumatic experiences today because, first of all, the craving for love that we wanted from our parents, we didn't get it.
Yeah.
So we try and get it from strangers. Yeah. And these strangers, what do? They take advantage of you.
Yeah.
Like, if you were, I think it's the way guys also, we also take advantage of women. Let me just put that. Like, a woman is genuinely going to come and tell you that she is in love with you. Hey, Buddha, you are like, hey, okay, I love you too. Then I go take you to the slaughterhouse. After I slaughter you, I'm like, done. I honestly think that as men, we also are contributing factor to a bit of the trauma that most women experience.
True.
Because sometimes we impregnate these women and we leave them.
Yeah.
So already you've scarred her for life, not... It's for life.
It's a permanent mark.
You've scarred her for life. So you can imagine the trauma that person is going to be having for the rest of her life.
Even in the next person, if the universe brings the next person to her, she will always be prepared to, like, anything can happen.
Yeah, I had someone saying that if you want to marry a woman who has a good relationship with the father. And I was like, okay, what the hell does that mean?
Yes.
Most people lack, like, even for men, it's easy for you to know a man who has a good relationship with the parents. These guys are collected. Have you ever realized, like, for example, by the way, especially a good relationship with your father? Let me not lie to you. It's something very important.
Yes.
A good relationship, you might not be talking every day.
Yes.
But you guys have a good relationship.
Yeah.
You will come out here, unasikia mtu hata hajaiona baba yake, hata hajui ni nani.
Very true.
And the moment you don't know your father, you kind of lose, like, the sense of self-identity. You don't know where you came from. Like, that confusion, especially for even girls and boys.
Even gentlemen, for a huge percentage, when you have not experienced that. For us, we are meant to be leaders, but somehow we lead perfectly when we are following from a certain template. So you don't have that perfect template. For instance, myself, the template that I have, it was a very perfect template of my grandpa. My grandpa was a combination of tough necessary love. Because he won't soothe you when you're making a mess, then he won't corner you for making that mess. He will discipline you and tell you, now, when you do this is what happens. The flip side to that coin is, you see some people here, when the adult life, like most of us, the Gen Zs, when their adult life kicks in, there is a lot of trauma bonding happening. Because number one, as a person, you have been taught that when people are treating you bad, they are treating you bad because you did something. They are not treating you bad because themselves they are bad people and that's how they treat people. We have not been taught, like, there has not been exposure to that end. You always think when someone is mistreating you, you have done something. It must be you who is in the wrong. Yeah. So each and every time you're struggling to prove a point, even when you're not the one in the problem. That is why you'll find people nowadays, they are very quick to say sorry because they think they are the one who hurt the other person. They are very quick to apologize for things that they didn't do. You know, they are very quick to take even the accountability for someone else's mess because that's how they have been conditioned, because they know haiwezi kuwa ni huyu akona makosa, because I've been brought up to know time yenye napitia suffering mostly inakuanga ni mimi niko kwa makosa. So hata kwa hii dynamic lazima so I must sit down and reevaluate penye nimekosea. Someone goes out there and cheats on you, yeah, and now you have to look, mbona amecheat, yeah, maybe hairline yangu imesonga kidogo, so yeah, maybe ndevu zangu hazijajaa kama hizi zangu, so I have to look for a way to transplant my ndevu zijae, not even factoring the fact that they are cheaters, that's why they have cheated. All right, because I've known mwenye amecheat, mwenye ashaini cheat alinicheat juu nilikosa kitu fulani. All right, mwenye wa kwanza alicheat kwa sababu naishi sijui wapi ghetto. Haya, nikajipanga na life, nikahama nikaishi place poa. Huyu mwingine amecheat, natafuta reason, amecheat juu sina gari. Nikahazo nikapata gari. Umepata gari, unaishi place poa, upate mwingine a cheat. Maybe amecheat juu ni kama dress code ama nini. So you find you're doing other things on top of, instead of realizing, okay, let me just admit nimekuwa nikipatana na mangauro zinafanya venye zinataka juu ni mahuru, I'm not the problem. Same case with the girls, like they have to do other things. Anajiangalia, mbona boy wangu amecheat, ama ni weight yangu, anaingia kwa gym, anapiga weight, ana accommodate ile jangili tena. Jangili inakuja, ina cheat tena, ama ni nini, bam anaenda surgery. We saw a very rich woman die doing liposuction. Yeah,
liposuction is when they remove the fat from your body.
Yes. If I don't want to judge anyone, but if we could sit her down here, she could explain some traumatic experiences in her marriage. Maybe somehow the husband pointed out that, hey, na umeona vibaya by the way. Yeah, so like ama this interest, and maybe in her past life someone did something similar, and now her fat, she has associated it with what happens immediately after me getting fat ni kuachwa. So immediately she will know ile kitu ingine na happen hapa ni kuachwa. So because gym imekataa, diet imekataa, nifanya nini? Liposuction. Unaenda unaumeria.
Hey, Mazi, that's very sad. I honestly think, by the way, that you're talking about self-doubt.
Yeah.
Where you're always like, mimi ndo niko na
makosa.
Some of the signs that you may be carrying unhealed trauma.
Yeah.
But hata before niongee unhealed trauma, let me talk about this.
Yeah.
Mimi mtu wa kuwatch horror movie na hashtuki kwa nyumba yake. You get me?
Yeah.
Like, how does someone, like, literally, bro, hii TV yote,
yeah,
nimekaa hapo na watch horror. Mimi trailer peke yake is enough to scare me.
Yeah.
And then you're dating someone who can watch. Kuna series fulani inaitangwa Conjuring. Because that was a series I watched. I literally nilienda ushago, sikuwa nataka kukaa kwa nyumba yangu. So imagine how hardened you might be as a person. That you unaweza watch horror movie peke yako kwa nyumba.
Lonely people get addicted to such.
Na ati anasema bado kuna venye
I think the research shows that people who really are deeply addicted to horror movies and true crime podcasts, there are people who have experienced trauma in the past, and most of the time it's a coping mechanism for them to, like, be having one trick up their sleeves in case such a thing comes again. I'm now wiser in their thinking. I'm now wiser to tackle this. I had someone, because of listening to the true crime podcast and all that, she has turned into a monster. Like, she has ideas on how to kill a man slowly.
Over. What do you mean?
Using, tutapeana hii siri kweli, using apple seeds. Apple seeds, they have a certain chemical. So when you dry the apple seeds and you siaga them, and you be putting that powder in, I don't know, the drink or whatever, it will kill that person slowly. Me, I have not given out I don't know the scientific behind that, but yeah, I was scared to know that she knows that.
Guy, but then sometimes you date people with traumas. Hii kuna watu wamepitia, by the way. Wacha nikwambia kuna watu wamepitia. Anyway, signs that you might be having trauma. Number 1 is constant self-doubt or imposter syndrome. Number 2 is attracting toxic relationships.
Yes.
Feeling emotionally numb or overly reactive. And finally, fear of confrontation or expressing needs.
I'll talk about attracting toxic relationships because you don't know better. That's the kind of love that you have been shown from the onset of you understanding what love means. If it is not tough, then utapata mdema akisema by the jamaa anafanya kila kitu but I don't feel him. Quote and quote, I exert authority. But in real sense, what she's saying, the guy is not abusing me the way I'm
used to abuse. But then, abuse, by the way, can also get into your head that you now think it's a normal thing.
Yes, you have accommodated it. So now the guy who is nice to you, it's boring. Bro, mbona uko kama nilikuwa nataka mama mwingine niko na masista jo. Nataka unakaa hivi unanipiga kofi na jua tuko na mwanaume kwa nyumba.
Man.
Because that's the kind maybe of love that quote and quote she's this person nini alionyeshwa. Aliona babake akikuja, mamake wakiletana juu hivi nini anampiga kofi na mamake anakimbia jikoni anapika nyama na anakuja anamletea. So in her head she thought, hey, maybe kuna switch fulani mamangu ya mapenzi yenye mamangu amepata kutoka kwa hiyo kofi, ndio maana ametoka even after confrontation akaenda kapikia mzaai kanyama na kastiu na akaleta na tukakula tukajibamba. So when the lady has not been slapped properly by the boyfriend, he'd be like, mbona huyu ama
is he normal?
Yeah, it will be a confronting idea. So now when anapata mjamaa mwenye ana cheat, dema kiuliza mbona una cheat, unapigwa kofi, sasa hiyo inasema yes, the little girl inside her is excited. Yes, huyu amenirudisha back to my lane.
Man, I'm telling you, if it gets to such a level,
you are gone.
Seek therapy.
You are gone.
Go. In fact, I think, by the way, what you're saying is very true. What you're saying is very true. And that's why so many people are in abusive relationships.
Yeah.
Even guys, kuna mwanaume like, you know how stupid it can be for a man to say that raha ya ndoa ni kelele za bibi.
Yeah. Happy life, happy wife, happy life. Pure nonsense.
Can you believe that? And sometimes, like, most guys don't understand that when they are saying this, you're just like a slave. Me, I've seen a guy anatusiwa kwa supermarket by the wife, and I'm like, hey, Buddha.
Yeah.
You don't have, like, not to slap your wife, but really just to say that I think there are boundaries.
Yeah.
This is not what should be happening. And honestly, like, that's someone who's been used to the toxic kind of a wife.
Yes.
Have you ever seen someone ameoa and then 2 weeks later, the relationship between them and the extended family is completely done?
Correct. Because
this guy believes that the wife is right. Yeah? Even women are getting that.
Do you know how the devil works? Isolating.
Of course.
Sasa finya.
Exactly.
A person who wants to destroy you, a husband or a wife, will isolate you from, number 1, your family, your close friends, and anything that is participating to kind of enlighten you to know that you can have happiness outside of this cocoon. So she becomes your everything. Yeah? Unapata mtu anaita bibi yake mom. Haven't we seen that?
It's very,
even
very
kwa online. Mtu tu kimutu tu sasa I consulted mom. I'm like, okay, mamako. No, like, mom. Okay, now my wife. You're like, holy crap. Ime graduate to a point that your wife has taken you, isolated you, or your husband. Now that you're calling each other parental names.
And by the way, udem akiacha huyo jamaa, that guy can kill himself.
Exactly.
And by the time, like, that guy gets to realize akuwe, like, switch him a flip, he's going to be getting into relationships and wonder, what? So exactly. I'm the one who is supposed to be leading.
Yeah.
Aya, you mean? So hata sifai kukuuliza vitu. I think there's also a lot of guys have been numbed, by the way. Unakuta jamaa, when he was single, he was very tough.
Yes.
Wacha alioa kafupi hivi. Kakamkalia chapati, now the guy is like everything. But I don't like guys who like consulting every time unataka kupigia bibi yako ama bwana yako. Have you ever, sometimes, you're dealing with someone and it's like, let me hear what my husband or my wife has to say. I don't, it's not a problem anyway. I'm just saying to an extent.
Let me put it this way. I would be very much pleased as a husband to see you do things and inform me, rather than consulting each and every time. You can consult on some things that might affect the overall health of the relationship or the family or the well-being. Like some things on investment, some things that may need us to cough a large amount of money all at once as a family. Usienda tena kusikiza nini, weka nini kwa Binance, weka 2 million itakurudishia nini?
Itakurudishia 5 million.
Tena hiyo sio freedom yenye naongelelea. But doing something as my wife, just inform me, then I'll tell you, let's see what becomes of it. Me as a husband doing something, informing you, then you as a wife, you bring your input, then together then there are things that we consult, but not consulting on everything. Yeah, bro, unapeleka mtu hapa nini kwa mkutano, mnaongelea kuhusu kitu ni ya biashara. Bibi yake it's not a business person, not a business consultant, in fact ni housewife. Nothing against housewife. Unaenda kuconsult kwa sababu ya website. Jamani, yeye anafanya kazi, ni yeye business person, lakini after everything is said and done anasema wacha ni consult bibi, wacha nimuulize, there is a website here, hata tumekaa na mtu wa website, hebu ongea naye. Then inabidi tena uelezee bibi yake, then bibi yake pale mwisho anakuambia mimi sielewi hizo mambo, ongea na JMO tu. And you're like, JMO ulikuwa unapigia bibi wa nini?
I also think, by the way, pia I think trauma, unaweza kuwa someone who's not experienced trauma in life, and then you get traumatized by marriage. Kuna watu wana divorcingi wanatoka huko wanasema siku ingine nijipate nimejishenyenta kwa ndoa. You get me? You ask that question, you're like, by the way, it doesn't have to mean that you have to experience childhood trauma.
But most of it, it stems from there.
But me, one of the worst things I've heard about childhood trauma is child abuse.
Very risky.
Child abuse. And by the way, like there is someone, have you ever heard, umeenda ukauliza mama yako amekutandika hadi unamuuliza wewe ndio uliniza wewe? Wewe ndio uliniza. Like hiyo ni kiboko tu. Then there are people who've experienced child abuse. Mazee unasikia, like you listen to someone's experience. Like there's this guy tulikuwa tunasoma naye. Tunajiuliza, why does this guy come to school and he has like huku chini anasema ana complain. Kumbe kwa nyumba there is a cousin, and he's a man. Like he's been abused by a man. You get me? So imagine that is always going to be in the head of that particular person for the longest time possible. Na mimi usema, by the way, if you have something like that, the best thing you can do right now is seek therapy. Sijui umesema Mengos, you're still in your Nairobi nini? Confessions of Nairobi Men. There's a story about a guy who was to be like there's a story about kuna story ya sodomy and something like that.
And do you know, because of such kind of traumas and all that, that's why we have seen the emergency of all those things, the LGHD TV. Those things.
Those things. Those QXRB put T for
QLED. 8K.
8K. 12K.
Exposure.
Yes.
That's why we have seen all those things emerging, because in your head, because you've been abused by the other gender, you think there is a lot of peace in this other side. A Lebanese will think another person from Lebanon.
Wanaitagwa hivyo bwana.
Another person from Lebanon is a bit friendly than another person from Pakistan. Because they experienced a past traumatic experience with a Pakistanian. Now the Pakistan person maybe was raised by a single Lebanon person. Now the Lebanon person was inflicting things on this nini.
Pakistani,
So when the Pakistani goes out, he looks for another Pakistani, because again zile trauma hataki nioe tena Lebanon ikuje inifanyie ile kitu the Lebanon that gave birth to me did. So you see, Pakistani and Lebanon things, they are stemming from there. Sit these people down, they will tell you. There are people who have reformed from such behaviors, and they will tell you the reason why I joined LGHD TV, QLED 8K, 4K exposure, and zooming is because there is a gap.
50 megapixels.
50 megapixel. Cool. there was a gap
Yeah.
that was left, and it was filled, quote unquote, perfectly by someone who is in this other lane. Yeah, someone who will tell you, you know, makasi itakata, msumari itadunga. So heri tukata tu na makasi, tumalize hiyo story
ishi hapo.
Msumari ikidunga, it might leave a permanent scar. Makasi ikikata, tunaweza sema ni trimming ilikuwa inafanyika hapo, na trimming na pruning and all that. So for those that get it, you're not here to explain anything.
Hatutaki tukuongea sana.
Yeah, but some of these things, if you view them on a large screen, the large screen of life, you'll find a dot in each and every these things, and it all stems from traumatic experience.
I also think bullying also contributes to that.
Yeah.
Mimi, I remember when I was bullied in form 1, nikabuliwa. Me, I was like, hamtani bully nyinyi.
Yes.
Siwezi kuwa nimefika high school mwanza kunibully. Like imagine unaambiwa upande mti yenye iko kwa ground na unaambiwa panda. Yeah. I remember I thank God kuna Morio tu one day nikienda home. Like nauliza huyu Morio, by the way, kwani tunaishingi pamoja? Na wewe ni form 4. Wewe ndio utakuwa security.
Yeah.
So anytime, like, and then I made friends with another guy called Elvis. So no one used to bully me. But some of the guys who used to be bullied, by the way, it will affect even after finishing school.
Hey, my friend, una joke na ukiwa umeambiwa uchore giza.
Guy. Eh?
Leta keki kimwaganga utamu.
Tichora njaa. You get me?
Chora njaa.
Like and then there is extreme bullying, by the way.
Yeah.
Like there is bullying that is now, like I used to hear some of the things. In our school we didn't used to get that. But there is a sodomization.
Yeah.
Unasikia someone is being sodomized and you're like, kwetu hatukuwa na vitu kama hizo juu. It was like if the principal or not the principal, if like any teacher came and found you in bed with another man.
Hey.
Ndo maana tu vitanda tu wanaume tunakuanga hivi.
One person.
And I don't know why. I don't know if this was the case in your school.
Walikuwa na day school, so
walikuwa wanaekea mkikula chakula mnasikia inanuka mafuta taa.
Hey, they tried that thing in our school. I told you nilienda shule na akina nani. We could not do that. Unaekea wazazi mafuta taa kwa nini? Yo.
Wanazaa.
Mtu beyond being a student anaenda nyumbani and kushughulikia maneno zake. Sasa unamwekea mafuta taa ya nini?
Me, I'm telling you were like castrated, like to unajua mafuta taa. And you know the funny thing, ukiwa njaa you will never think about
the taste.
You will not think about mafuta taa. But every time for 4 years we used to complain, chakula inanuka mafuta taa. But ile njaa uko nayo, mafuta taa is less of your worries. But I never used to understand until I finished school. Ndo nikaambiwa, by the way, hiyo inaekangwa msianze kupata temperature.
You see now, what that did in itself, it was abuse. But you couldn't see it as abuse. Because one thing about what trauma is good at doing is camouflaging. Showing you that abuse is good for you. So what it does, it creates an environment to facilitate you to, like, it's a bromance with abuse. Unasema hata imenisaidia. Ungepata among you kuna majamaa tu wanakaa tu hivi, by the way, isipokuwa niyo mafuta ya shule mimi ningefanya vitu mbaya jo. Na si mafuta ya shule, you just needed to be disciplined. You just related with that abuse and it becomes now even mtoto wako time ataikewa it will be normal because si hata si tuliekewa
hata sisi
na nilikupata. Yeah. So basically trauma is something that needs to be dealt with as we wind up maybe. And it stems from a lot of things. And trauma in itself hinders you from being active in things that are productive, and the antenna alertness or negativity inakuanga very high. So people who have passed through trauma, it becomes very hard for them to even concentrate on something that will build them. They concentrate on building a wall that will prevent bad things from harming them. So they spend a lot of time building this wall of Jericho so thick that nobody can penetrate. The time that they're supposed to be building something else or a foundation in their life to elevate themselves to a level that they are unreachable by these things that they're trying to defend.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think for me, honestly, I would say that tremor pia can also stem from negligence and neglect from your parents.
Correct.
Especially when you try and approach your biological parents and they do not want anything to do with you. I mean, sometimes it can also be very traumatic and it can make you lack a sense of belonging.
Yes.
But honestly, for me, I think if you have any traumatic experiences, I think it's the first thing is acceptance. Number 2 is solving them. You don't just accept and still live with the problem. Seek therapy.
Yes.
Join communities, join peers of people who can actually help you solve that. Believe me, I think almost everyone has some traumatic experience one way or the other. And the most important thing is that you can also get to share out in even religious institutions.
Yeah.
Like nowadays, you can easily go and confide in probably your pastor.
Yeah.
Not everyone really. It's not everyone you share your story with. But you also need to have that ability to sit down and solve it. For me, therapy really works. Sit down with a therapist, have a conversation,
yes,
talk about what is affecting you, discuss and have a look at what is the problem at hand,
yes,
what is affecting you, what you need to do, the steps that you need to make towards actually getting to solve that particular problem. And really, I think you also need to understand that some things are not normal.
Yeah,
they are not normal.
Yes. And there's a problem somewhere. You should not just be entertaining toxic relationships because you believe you're the problem.
At one point, you also have to look at the other party and ask the question of, are you also okay, my friend? You get me? But ideally, for me, I think trauma is evident.
Yes.
But you need to solve it.
Absolutely. If you had a traumatic experience, that should not define you. In association with getting a therapy session or something, also be exposed. Go out there and know that there is a different side of that coin. You tend to you experience the bad side, but now you have grown and now you are in charge. You are now in charge of what can happen from now henceforth. Go out there and explore. When you see someone having a healthy relationship, it doesn't really mean that it will turn out like how you are stand out. So take time to explore those healthy relationships. Where do they stem from? And how can I expand my mind to understand that the good side of whatever I experienced really exists? It's an uphill task, I won't lie to you, because the evidence of bad things on your side may supersede the evidence of good things. But all is not lost, because if you can see it happening somewhere else, there is a huge possibility that even for you, you just need to change the environment, because the environment is a facilitator of so many things. When I'll use the analogy of crabs in a barrel. When you put so many crabs in a barrel and you close that nini. Initially, a crab can climb with intelligence and itoke kwa hiyo barrel. But if you close that nini lid and each and every crab yenye inapanda inapata kuna kifuniko inarudi chini, even the day that you will open that lid, kila nini zitakuwa zikiambiana hapa chini, hata zikizaana zinaambia huko juu kuna kuwa na kifuniko. Na ulifunua kitambo, so huko juu kuna kuwa na kifuniko. So you have to get out of that environment that facilitated, or the environment that you grew up in terms of mentally, because physically you can move from your village and go to another place that does not remind you of those things, but your mind is still stuck on those nini. So renewal of the mind, that's the point that I'm driving into. Yeah, so that's the EE PowerTalk. See you in the next one. My name is Study Blessing.
See you in the next one. The beginning of solving a problem is understanding and knowing the problem.
Absolutely.
Good.
No more, no less.